Welcome back. The National Development Planning Commission, NDPC, has painted a worrying picture of employment in Ghana, describing the country's economic growth as largely jobless. The Commission says its 2022 to 2025 annual progress report shows that although Ghana achieved its economic growth target of 6% during the period, the growth did not translate into enough jobs. The annual progress report is part of the NDPC's constitutional mandate to assess whether government policies are improving the lives of Guineans. Listen.
We at the Commission were expecting industry to play a major role in our economic development and to create the jobs we need, the youth need. But the data shows that that it didn't work. It didn't work. So the growth we are seeing, 6.0 we are seeing, it's actually a jobless growth. Look at the performance of industry. It actually contracted in 2021, contracted in 2023, and just some slight expansion. The only time that industry did well was in 2024 because of the contribution of gold and the mining and quarry subsector of the economy. But last year, it's only gold that improved a little. All the others in that category or subsector performed poorly. That's the reason why we recorded 2.3. But if this were to grow as expected, then your question, issue of unemployment would also be affected. Because the more jobs there are in the system, the more these youths will be absorbed to work. But unfortunately, we didn't go that way.
Gemma Pia was at that event and joins me in the studio with more. Gemma, what else was discussed at that launch?
So NDPC took the media through, it was a media engagement, it took the media through how they came up with this annual report. And this is a report that spans from 2022 to 2025. So it touches on the performance of the previous government and a year of the John Mahama administration. Now, they took information or the progress reports from the various ministries, departments and agencies, the RCCs, the regional coordinating councils, and also the MMDAs. And Nimori Thompson, the chairman for the NDPC, spoke about how it got to a point that he needed to write letters to these agencies to actually furnish them with a report to be able to come up with the annual progress reports by NDPC. Now, the report is supposed to give us an appreciation of what we are doing as a country, the targets and then the constraints or the challenges, the progress that we have made as a country. And also they talk about the importance, how important it is for them to put together reports that will tell the story of Ghana in terms of accounting to development partners, because they work with development partners a lot. Now, they talked about 6 dimensions that they used. That includes the economy, the environment, social issues, governance, and also implementation, coordination, and monitoring and evaluation. For the economy, they said the economy was really doing well because they had targeted 8% in terms of inflation rates. Now, the inflation rates, the 8% that they envisioned or they targeted, plus or minus 2, actually did so well. We are recording about 5% in terms of inflation. So the economy generally is looking good. The growth rate is now 6%. But the more important issue is that the growth rate is actually not providing jobs. So they talk about a jobless growth. So they give the criteria: services, agriculture, and industry. If you look at the services industry or the services sector is doing so well, but unfortunately, that is not providing jobs. The industry that's supposed to be providing the jobs is not doing so well. So the target for industry was about 7.1%, but now we are recording 2.3%. That's where the growth, or in terms of jobs, that's where we are supposed to be getting the jobs from, but it's not happening. And so they're not too happy about the fact that the industry where we would create jobs, when we talk about the mining industry, quarrying, and the rest, we would be creating jobs so that young people will get jobs to reduce the unemployment rates. That is not creating the jobs. So they raised concerns about that as well. On the social development, they said also talk about AIDS, saying that AIDS has reduced and all of that. And they also speak about education. The education sector has done pretty well. So from the various levels, from kindergarten to the tertiary level, the enrollment levels have increased. For the tertiary level, the introduction of the no fee stress policy has also increased enrollment, and they give a thumbs up to that. One other issue they spoke about was the fiscal space for MMDAs and the MDAs to be able to bring on board new policies and programs. On top of that list is the Ministry of Roads and Highways. They said this particular ministry does not have the physical space to start new projects. And so the projects that they have started, that is what they are supposed to be continuing. They don't need, because they don't have the physical space to come up with new projects. For the Ministry of Communication and Technology, they said they have that fiscal space to start new projects and policies. So, Ken, these are some of the findings from the annual reports, progress reports by NDPC.
Jamapia, thank you very much for that update. Let's go on to Zoom right now and speak to a number of people who are joining the conversation. Kojo Nkrumah is the ranking member on the Economy and Development Committee. Dr. George Domfe is a development economist. Williams Pepra is an associate professor of finance at Andrews University. Kofi Noko is the vice chairman of the Economy and Development Committee of Parliament. Gentlemen, grateful for your time this afternoon. Kojo Nkrumah, I want to begin with you. Welcome to the program. Do you agree with the NDPC's assessment that Ghana's recent growth has largely remained jobless?
First, in saying good afternoon to your viewers and my co-panelists, we should commend the NDPC for preparing one of the most important reports in our republic, which is the annual progress report. And that report helps us to see whether or not the targets that we've set for ourselves as a country, we are meeting them. Now, in the area of trying to juxtapose the growth numbers that are being published with employment creation, the reason is obvious if you look at the various data sets that are being published. Number one, if you look at where the growth is coming from, about half of the growth of 2025, about 50% of it comes from the services sector. And if you look at the specific subsectors in services that contributed to the growth, like information and communications, which did about 21% of both in the services sector, or finance and insurance, other sectors like industry, where you have the opportunity to create a lot more jobs, are lagging behind. And industry, specifically manufacturing, they are lagging behind, doing about 2.3%. And so you find it's primarily to get fashion in the economy. If you're also in an economy where the government is heavily fixated on achieving some macro numbers, like the numbers on inflation, and is using methods like very, very heavy sterilization, which we have spoken about, the consequent effect is that you mop up so much liquidity from the system that what the business community requires to stimulate demand for their products and services is essentially extinguished. And if I have a business and nobody is buying, why would I employ somebody? So today you speak to traders, they are telling you that, yes, you may say inflation is down or the currency is stable, but demand is so low, they are not getting people to buy products from their shelves. Why would they employ people? If manufacturers are complaining, and just last week you heard the manufacturers complaining, if the manufacturers are complaining that the cost of production is going through the roof, and the Ghana Statistical Service is telling you that the producer price index is going through the roof, why would they be employing more people? So what you are seeing is actually not strange. It is the product of the kind of economic management policies that are being rolled out by this administration. And I'm happy that the state institutions are boldly speaking up. There are some who are being prevented, like the Bank of Ghana. They are being stopped from telling the Ghanaians the truth of what is going on. But the NDPC, the Ghana Statistical Service, they are publishing other data sets. I hope they are not stopped too, so that Ghanaians will know what is really going on. Economic policymakers should pay attention.
Kojo, don't go yet. Kofi Noko is the Vice Chairman of the Economy and Development Committee. Mr. Noko, welcome to the program. What does the majority make of the latest report by the National Development Planning Commission?
Well, thank you also for the opportunity to join. And let me commend NDPC. Kojo and I are leaders of the Economy and Development Committee, where we always work hand in hand with NDPC. And I believe NDPC is not only coming out with these indices, but it's also helping us to ensure that the agencies and the ministries set up, especially with their targets that they give to them. And periodically, we do invite them to Parliament to answer questions as to whether they were able to achieve those targets or not. I wouldn't want to throw their part of Kojo and where he's going about this, making this discussion partisan. But I believe that NDPC is an agency that we should always pay attention to. But the truth of the fact is that we'd all appreciate the indices when it comes to how well this government is doing. We always make mention of the state of the inflation rate as we speak, the cost of doing business, and also the effects, where it was and where it has gotten to. But let's discuss the matter in true nationalistic perspective. We say, for example, that there are some sectors that are growing, i.e. the mining industry. The mining industry contributed about 8 to 9% of the GDP rate in 2025. But let's ask ourselves, how many people are employed in this sector? And that is the question. So even though in terms of GDP, would be seen increase, but in the numbers of people employed. And that is why this government is so much determined on the value addition, extending it, integrating it to ensure that there are more hands, more employment opportunities for our youth. That is a factor. So you would see the oil and gas industry, for example, contributing so much to the GDP. But then we ask ourselves also, how many people are involved in the employment? Especially when we did not refine so much of our oil. And that is why I celebrate Centum and Tor for coming up online. And this all comes down to increase in employment. And also, we know that advancement in technology would mean that the automation of cost of processes of production would also limit the number of people that would get the opportunity to work. And another factor which we cannot deny is the number of people, graduates, that are coming out from the universities. You know that it's a clear mismatch with regards to the number of opportunities that are available for them to get employed. So basically what we're trying to do is that, yes, we have to improve day in and day out on how we manage affairs. And that is why I say that we as a nation need to pay attention to the integration of our raw materials, because the manganese that we export, the bauxite that we export, when it comes to this exportation, we are exporting jobs. And that is why we should pay much attention. And I must commend the government of the day for putting more emphasis on integration, on ensuring that we add value to our raw materials. If we should go that tangent, then we could close the gap with regards to the reflection in GDP and employment. But as to whether NDPC is doing well and that they must not be made to keep quiet or something, I don't think that's the way. I don't want us to go into the issue of DOG. The governor that was in Parliament yesterday, I believe that wouldn't augur well for the discussion. But this is a wake-up call for us as a nation to look at, especially the cost of doing business. How do we bring down the cost of electricity from 10 cents to about 4 cents, as is practiced in China and others? How do we improve the road network to ensure that logistics become cheaper? And that is why the government is bent on constructing roads, international roads, and for Maxim. And I'm happy when I'm going to Takoradi, because no matter how the situation is bad on the road, but there's improvement day in and day out. When we improve logistics, when the cost of doing business comes down, when credit facilities are available, and power, which is so crucial in production, comes down, then we'll be talking about bridging up the gap between the reflection in GDP and employment. And that is what we should be talking about.
Right. Kofi, don't go yet. Williams Pepra is a professor of finance at Andrews University in the U.S. Professor Pepra, welcome to the program. An economy that is growing but not creating enough jobs. How does that economy continue to run?
Good afternoon to you and good afternoon to my fellow panelists. So thank you very much for asking me this question. I hope this report was done, as you mentioned, between 2022 to 2025.
Yes.
Which means that this was a period Ghana was probably we signed a IMF initiative, so we're moving from the instability era to stability era. So what the previous government did and what this government is doing is ensure that there is stability. So I'm going to talk about the theoretical and practical aspects why we are seeing this. So in theory and in practice, during period of instabilities, companies, whatever industry, will increase their production based on capital-intensive activity, but not adding on labor force. So simply put, companies will increase by looking at what existing labor do they have and what machinery do they have. And they will look at how this will impact on the output. So as you've mentioned, my previous panelists have mentioned, the outputs that have increased the GDP by 6%, which are the main finance, telecommunication sector, and the mining. These are capital-intensive industries. So they will look at the economy and see whether we are moving into stability before they decide to add on labor, which is labor-intensive. So that is why we are seeing that, yes, there's growth, but then when it comes to unemployment, that number is increasing. And then one other feature, probably in my perspective, is that there are too many small and informal sectors or businesses in Ghana. And the focus for government policies, as we've heard, and also from what we have seen, is addressing most capital-intensive angle. The one that must touch or create a lot of jobs for the middle class and low income level is not really felt. For example, this Nkoko Nketinketi project, and my aim was that this could have created huge employment opportunity, but we've heard of some outcomes which is not really creating that opportunity. So this is something that will come into play based on that assessment that they did. And then also that is under the agro-processing point. And then also in the manufacturing sector, as we've all mentioned, even though we've seen rates dropping, interest rate and the rest are dropping, but there are still more challenges, which means that manufacturing companies who will be in the position to employ more labor intensive are looking at what the economy is going to be before they make those decisions. So in my perspective, these are some of the things that I can add on to what my fellow panelists have mentioned. Thank you.
I'll come back to you. Don't go yet. Dr. Domfe is also joining the conversation. He's a development economist. Dr. Domfe, welcome to the program. What do we mean when we say jobless growth? And when does jobless growth really happen?
My brother, thank you very much. And let me say very good afternoon to our cherished viewers and listeners, and also my co-panelists. So over the years, I wouldn't limit the discussion to what we are experiencing today. Over the years, Ghanaian economy has not done so well in terms of the structure. And so the discussion that we are having here today is about the structural transformation. We haven't done so well as a country to change the structure of the economy. And when I talk about the structure of the economy, I'm making reference to the primary sector, that is the agricultural sector. Countries that have developed really work very well with the agricultural sector. After the agricultural sector is transformed, it gives way to the secondary. And when I talk about the secondary sector, that's what is also called industrial sector. And that is where we have subsectors such as water and sewage. That's where we have construction, mining and quarrying, and electricity production, and importantly, manufacturing. That all come together to constitute the secondary sector. And the tertiary is the services, telecommunication, and all those that my co-panelists have talked about. Unfortunately for Ghana, over the years from 1957, we saw the agricultural sector as the leading contributor to GDP. So it was a mainstay, as we always would call it. And it was also providing the highest proportion of job opportunities. What happened? Around the year 2005, we got up a day to hear that Ghanaian economy has moved from primary sector to the tertiary. What that meant was that there have been transformation. So now, instead of the agricultural sector leading the world, it has given way to, tertiary. And so in the process, there was what economists we describe as leapfrogging. So the economy has been leapfrogging. We have jumped over the secondary sector that was supposed to create more jobs for it. So it's not something that happened because of the recent, economic turmoil. It is the structural problem. It's something that has been with us over the years. We didn't get the equation right because, as I said, countries that have developed moved from primary to secondary and then to tertiary. In our case, we moved straight away from primary to tertiary. And so there's that confusion. It's just like a child who went to primary school and without going to secondary school goes to tertiary. That child will struggle. And that's exactly what is happening to Ghanaian economy. We are confused and we are struggling. The economy has not been creating jobs. Indeed, it's not only today that telecommunication is doing very well. For the past 10 years, if you want to look at the enablers of growth, telecommunications subsector has been doing very well. So it's not just it's because we had the economic problem and now we are transitioning to the recovery path, and that's why we have this problem. This is a problem that has been with us. And so the way to go is to look at the secondary sector, especially the manufacturing, building factories, at least to provide, market for the primary sector, the agricultural sector. That is the way to go. But we are not doing that. My worry is that has been a problem, and this government seems to be strengthening that problem. Why am I saying this? When you listen to the lady made mention of the fact that Ghana, our inflation, the best that we've all been looking for, which is a benchmark for Bank of Ghana, is 8%. And it is plus or minus 2. Now, anytime inflation is very higher and you want to bring it down, you do so at the detriment of job creation. In fact, Philip Kers will tell you that anytime you try to bring down inflation, it goes against job creation. And so my worry, and I still do not know why the government is still pursuing that agenda. Haven't brought inflation from 23 they came to meet to that band. I think that was where Bank of Ghana should have say, hey, I'm okay with the excessive interventions. I'm okay also with the open market operation. In spite of the fact that we got to the band that is determining growth and job creation, Bank of Ghana aggressively pursued open market operation, and in the process, they took so much money from the system. And when you do that, it affects aggregate demand. So when people produce and people don't come to buy, well, how did they expand to employ? Another thing that is even very bad and is making future of job creation very bleak had to do with Bank of Ghana's excessive intervention. This month, I hear they are going to pump $1.4 billion. The moment they do that, they're going to take away about 15 billion from the system. So that is going to affect aggregate demand. But when you also do that, you are making imported products cheaper in the eyes of the Ghanaian consumer. And when imported products become cheaper, people will rather import than producing. And so the government policies today are just preparing the country to be import dependent. And so when everybody is importing, and we consume what people have produced in their countries, we are creating jobs for them. And so, you see, we are not saying that you should not work to stabilize the city. My concern is that you don't force it to be so low when the market, the forces of demand and supply don't seem to be suggesting where the city is going. The government is aggressively pumping more to get the political optics right, that we've been able to maintain CD under 11. Yeah, you will do that, but you do so at the detriment of the jobs that you are not creating. You do so at the detriment of local production. Import becomes cheaper. Everybody wants to go and import, and that's not the way to go. And so I have a problem. It is a problem that has been there. I wouldn't blame and shift everything on this government. We have problem with the structure of the economy. But instead of them working hard to make sure at least they solve a bit of the problem, they are rather compounding the problem by making sure CD becomes so cheaper, import becomes cheaper in the eyes of the Ghanaian consumer. So the concentration attention will be on import. And when you do that, you don't create jobs. And apart from that, let me quickly add, cost of production. So they've done well when it comes to cost of credit. We've seen lending rate coming down. That is true. True. But apart from lending rate, we have also seen the tariffs. Electricity going up, water going up, and all these things affect job creation.
Dr. Domfe, don't go yet. Let's bring in Richard Akufo-Addo. He's the Director of Research and Innovation at the National Development Planning Commission. Mr. Akufo-Addo, welcome to the program. Do I have you? Right, we're still working the phone lines to get in touch with Dr. Akufo-Addo there, who is with the NDPC. But Kojo Opon Nkrumah is still with me. He's the ranking member on the Economy and Development Committee. Mr. Opon Nkrumah, as we all are aware, this is something that spans from 2022 to 2025. And one of the findings is that the unemployment rate declined to 13% in the third quarter of 2025 from 14.7% in the third quarter of 2023. So surely, looking at this perimeter, some will argue that the unemployment rate is not all that gloomy. And in fact, it has improved within the past few years, hasn't it? Don't you agree?
You should pick the labor market statistics of the Ghana Statistical Service, not the one that ends at 2025, but the latest one. It tells you that youth unemployment is now 32.4%. And that indeed in the Greater Accra region now, 1 out of every 2 young people that you meet is unemployed. Now, the reason for which the youth unemployment situation is getting worse is first because of some of the points that my colleagues have made, the two academics have made, including the fact that the measures that they are using to try to aggressively bring inflation down has reduced effective demand in the economy. And if people are not buying, nobody will create more jobs. The measures that they are trying to use to achieve the optics that currency has come down is essentially stimulating importation and not local production. In addition to these two, the reason for which youth unemployment is getting worse is that where you need to focus attention so that jobs will be created in the area of industrial policy, the government is reversing the industrial policy measures. For example, there was a policy measure known as a one district, one factory policy, which was supported by a set of incentives encouraging people to set up factories and create jobs. The same National Development Planning Commission, whose report you are considering today, says that as at the end of 2024, there were about 150 of those factories in operation. The same NDPC. This government, when it assumed office, instead of trying to correct whatever gaps they thought were in the 1D, 1F program, which was the industrial program that was going to create the jobs at the secondary stage, as one of your professors is talking about, they decided to cancel the policy. So today, they've cancelled it. There are no incentives. And in its place, they have introduced what they call the 24-hour economy policy. And what they are doing is that they are building markets in the districts, 261 markets, and saying that these 261 markets are going to be trading for 24 hours. What are they going to be trading in? who has manufactured that they are going to trade. It's going to be more imported products, assuming there's even money, that is effective demand for people to buy for 24 hours. And we're already noticing that effective demand has gone down. Local manufacturing is more expensive. So assuming these 24-hour economy markets will even work, they're going to be working on imported products. How are you going to therefore be creating the domestic manufacturing and the jobs that come with it? That is even an assumption. But if you cancel or collapse an industrial policy like the 24, like the 1D1F, you should be replacing it with an industrial policy full of incentives that can even do better. 2 years on, after we have appropriated 650 billion Ghana cedis to this government, they say they are now working on incentives. 2 years on. Meanwhile, they've worked on tribunals. They've worked on dismissing the Chief Justice. They've done the things that are important to them. But the things that will create an industrial conducive environment for people to set up factories, they collapsed 1D1F, and they have not replaced it with anything. Let me show you another industrial policy that they've collapsed. The automotive industry benefited from a policy measure that made it exciting for automobile companies to be locally assembling. Today, they've cancelled the incentives in the automobile sector. And so the local automobile companies that were assembling, you should speak to them. Send your reporters around to speak to them. And they will tell you how all the investment they made in local assembling plants are going to waste. If an economy will grow and develop, one of the things that you should be doing is to be doing high-value exports, so high-value manufacturing and exports. The economies like Morocco, etc., they are assembling and sometimes even exporting vehicles. This government has rather dismantled the policy architecture that will give life to the secondary sector, which is manufacturing. So when the NDPC tells you that, yes, this report is from 2022 to 2025, but in 2025, they are noticing that while there's growth of 6%, it's not coming along with jobs. It is true, and it is true because instead of building upon what they inherited as part of their reset, they are collapsing it. And those are the dangerous elements that, for example, one of your professors says that they are worsening the problem rather than fixing it.
You talk about the 1D, 1F being collapsed by the NDC since it assumed office. How many jobs was it able to create, and how successful was it, do you think?
I've just referred you to the NDPC report of 2024, which was published in June 2025. And I've told you that that report says at least 150 of them were functioning. That same report has numbers on jobs. Joy News has a data desk that does a lot of work on, I think, what you call the facts behind the numbers, if you recall. Invite them. Let them bring you the data for your audiences to hear the numbers, not me saying those numbers. It's all in the report. And that's why I commend the NDPC for doing such a great job. The numbers are in the report. Let your data desk bring it and tell the whole country what those numbers are. And I say so because these days it's important that independent institutions are allowed to put out their own data. Because when you don't let that happen, it becomes MPP NDC matter. However, sometimes when the independent bodies want to talk, then they are gagged. They are not allowed to talk, like what happened in Parliament yesterday. I don't want to go into it. But that data is there. Minimum 150 of them were functioning, and tens of thousands of jobs. The specific number is in the report. And I challenge you, let your data desk, what's his name, Kofi Asante or something, let them find the numbers and come and tell your audiences. Your audiences will see that what we are talking about is not something in thin air. But the point is this. These industrial policies have been removed. As we speak,
we will definitely do that here at Joy News. But do you have a readily available data to share with us concerning these figures you're giving us?
I don't have a copy as I'm speaking to you.
Okay.
But I'm saying to you that as we speak, the core industrial policies have been dismantled, and there's no alternative policy that has been put in place except what they call the 24-hour economy. And now we are told to wait for two things: the 24-hour economy market and the industrial, the incentive package. None of it is ready. 2-year hiatus. In this 2-year hiatus, tens of thousands of young Ghanaians are sitting home without jobs. And that's why the youth unemployment problem is getting worse.
Okay. Don't go yet. Kofi Noko is still with me. He is the Vice Chairman of the Economy and Development Committee. Mr. Noko, let's look at the youth employment figures that were released by the NDPC. It says that it remains a major concern, averaging 34.4% among persons aged 15 to 24 years. This is indeed a major concern, as the NDPC has mentioned, isn't it?
Well, thank you very much. And let me remind Kojo again that, as you indicated, there's been a drastic decrease in the percentages of youth unemployment as compared to December 2024 and currently.
I don't think he said that. He didn't say a drastic.
I spoke about the Mr. Noko. I spoke about the, if I may, respectfully, I spoke about the overall employment or unemployment decline, and this one that I asked you is specific to youth unemployment. I don't know if you have any contrary figures that you would like to share with us. I would gladly appreciate that, but please carry on.
No, I just wanted to remind Kojo that the economic situation in which we find ourselves today is far better than how it was in December 2024. He should know that, especially when, as we mentioned, inflation has come down so much. We're talking about from 23.8 to 3.3 as we speak. I'm glad that one of our panelists acknowledged that there's been a reduction in lending rate. Kojo, we mentioned that even interest rate, has come down so much. So basically what we're trying to say is that, yes, things are not so good, but they were better than before. And that is why I've told you the interventions, the initiatives by this government. We've come to understand that in order for businesses to thrive, cost of power must come down. There must be, that's why we are putting in place through the Ministry of Energy, the plans to build GPP2, another gas processing plant, to ensure that there is enough gas to power our electricity. I also told Kojo that, and that is why we also believe that the cost of logistics must come down. And that is why we've paid so much attention, backed by the big push to ensure that the road networks, Kumasi, Accra, Axim, Takrade, Kofodia, thereabout, becomes functional. And also to say that the plans of this government to ensure that value addition is added. But Kojo was making a case about this one district, one factory. I'm so surprised that he's still mentioning that. The reason why there were some changes was the abuse of the exemptions. And that is something that I want to attract your attention to. The abuse of the exemptions that were around the one district, one factory. I was in Parliament, in the 7th Parliament, and I can attest to you the bizarre nature in which some of them were accorded. And that is why this government, because of prudence, has decided to look into them. This government, led by the Minister of Finance, led by Akufo-Addo, is prudent in whatever he does. And that we cannot just be endorsing where parties and political apparatchiks are giving tax exemptions to just go and enjoy and where these are cut. So let's not talk about the one district, one factory. You mentioned that it was functioning. Why didn't it reflect in the unemployment rate? It didn't, because it was just unreal. So basically what I'm trying to say is that things are well, even though I mentioned that, yes, like I said, the GDP 6% increase, it comes from the oil and gas industry. I mentioned that. The oil, the mining sector. And so the only way we can let it reflect in the youth unemployment is through value addition, agro-business, agro-processing. And that is the way to go. We just met the Ministry of Industry, and it was mentioned, what measures are we putting in place to ensure that the raw materials that we export would be processed, even if in a semi-processed condition? That is how we can ensure that the youth of this country get jobs to do. It is not about blame games. It is about putting measures in place. And I have maintained that the cost of power needs to look at. Power must be available. And logistics also must count to ensure that. And also lending rate, credit. How many Ghanaians have access to credit? The young man in Takrady in Axim who wants to venture into agro-processing, what support can be given? And that is why we're looking at it. So if interest rate, lending rates come down, it is a means of boosting local production. So we must commend this government for the wonderful initiatives that we continue to put in place. I have maintained that the stance of NDPC and the role they play is crucial, and it's a wake-up call for all of us, because at the end of the day, we should be measured by the target we set for ourselves, and I believe we're doing well in this regard.
Okay. Professor Pepra is still with me. He is a professor of finance at the university, or Andrews University in the US. Professor Pepra, this is an economy many have likened to a wind-chill economy, an economy that looks good on paper, but is not reflective in the pockets of people. The minority has consistently argued that this is the state of the economy. Would you agree with them that this is a wind-chill economy that looks good on paper, but in the pockets, it's a different story?
So I may differ a little bit with that assertion, because what we put on paper is based on what the data we've gathered. So, and we know that if you're a researcher, we hardly will you do a research to cover the entire population. The data we normally use will be sampled, right? But there is, in statistics, there is a rule of thumb we call central limit theorem, which gives room for us to be able to generalize the results to cover the entire population. So, what we have on paper now, if I go by the academic and the things I've mentioned, will support that. Yes, if what is on paper says this is what we have achieved, we agree and assume that yes, that is what is on the ground. However, when we come to, we may find a lot of deviations based on the findings, but the general feeling, these figures we have GDP and inflation and all those things are index based, which is a representative number. So reality may differ a little bit from what is actually on the ground. However, the mean, the average, is what is reported on paper. And so the discussion we are having now with the growth of 6% in GDP growth is a representative of the mean or the average. And when it comes to the unemployed figure that we are talking about, 13%, which has been, is also the average. I'm going to share with you my major fear for Ghana. Unemployment is become a security threat. We are educating a lot of young people between the ages of 15 and 23, and there are a lot of tertiary universities, and we see a lot of skills mismatch. And what they are studying at the university that is not what we need, mostly needed at the employment point. So this unemployment mismatch is something that we have to look out for. The economists will call it underemployment. They have several definitions for underemployment. It's something that we have to really, really think about. If not, these youth, when they gain some skills in technology and those things, will go into other sectors, as we are seeing the fraud issues, cybercrime issues may increase because they don't have a real skill that they can apply to, or what they have learned that they can apply to gain income in what they do. So in my perspective, the skills mismatch is a major issue. And as the two politicians have been discussing, I would love that now that probably they are agreeing that National Development Planning Committee Commission is coming out with this form of research. They should also come together and work with them for us to have an established or lasting plan so that the two parties will not change the entire plan as has been happening in the past. Every party comes in and then the plan is changed. And the more the plan changes, it affects the growth. It affects the economy where we want to go. So the two parties should come together and make sure that, yes, we all take this research that has come from National Development Planning Committee and make sure that can we extend it above the normal 4-year medium-term plan to about 8 years. And each political party may tell us, okay, we can do this within 2 years. This one can say we can do this within 3 years. And then Ghanaians, based on that plan, we can vote for which party that we think that will really help us. So this is my point of view. We need that plan and the two parties must agree. We know we have the 4-year plan per the public sector, financial sector rule, but we need a long-term plan. And then the parties must now come and tell us, yes, we can achieve this within 3 years, we can achieve this within 5 years, and Ghanaians will make a choice. And this is what Ghanaians are looking for, especially with the youth. I'm in Ghana now, so I've been around looking at some things, and I noticed that underemployment is a major concern. Unemployment is there, but underemployment is more serious. People will apply their skills in areas that are not needed, which is what we have seen, the cyber fraud issues. Those who have acquired technological training, if they don't find regular employment and formal employment that will help them to apply it in the right way, they will channel their knowledge into another area that will become a security threat for the nation.
Dr. Domfe is still with me. I'm looking at some of the key economic challenges that were outlined by the National Development Planning Commission. And one of them is that there's a high public debt and fiscal sustainability concerns. And also it talked about our inability to industrialize our economy and the challenges that there's high operational costs of doing business. This is not something that is new. Why have we not been able to tackle these main challenges for a very long time? The high public debt and fiscal sustainability concerns and the high operational costs of doing business in this country.
Thank you very much. And let me welcome Professor William Pipra to Ghana. And Prof, you are welcome to Ghana. You asked Prof a very good question about why the numbers look very good on paper, but people are not feeling it. In economics, it's not so much about the end results. You see, unfortunately, Ghana, what people are looking for is inflation has dropped to 0. It was 100, it was very bad. CD has become stronger. You know, those issues are good. Those are the things we normally will see on papers. That is very good. But how we got there, so it's not just about the paper, the figures we see. How did we get there? For example, let me quickly talk about Bank of Ghana. Bank of Ghana, currently, the regime is managed floating exchange rate regime. Managed floating exchange rate regime. Mm-hmm. And that such regime, demand and supply for foreign currencies determines the value of our local currency, CD. And as and when it becomes necessary, the bank will enter the market to protect the CD. In other words, periodically, we see the bank coming to inject more foreign currencies if supply is lower compared to the demand. And on the other hand, if we do things very well, and we reduce the demand for foreign currencies, and the economy grows such that we have CD performing very well, that performance is what creates jobs. That performance is what Ghana needs and not what we are experiencing today. And so the managed floating, if CD does well, because of excessive intervention, that is artificial. That one, it will make things look better, but it cannot affect the ordinary Ghanaian as we would have wished to see. But then, if it were, on the other hand, supply and demand for foreign currencies, determining the value of the local currency, our CD, in that way, what immediately happened then is CD would only do well if the demand for foreign currencies goes down. And Ghana today, demand for foreign currencies, about 80% of it is for import. And so what will push demand for demand for foreign currencies to go down is any policy that will help reduce import. And policies that will help reduce import are policies, agricultural policies, that will help us to produce more food. Policies for the industrial sector that will help us produce most of other things that otherwise would have imported. And so if, for example, not long ago we had 7 car assembly plants, so many of those other industries were being set up. if we had done so well to sustain this kind of movement and growth, what would have happened then is that we wouldn't be here talking about Bank of Ghana coming to intervene in order to see CD perform. CD would have naturally performed because aggregate demand for foreign currencies had dropped. Because now the import bill has gone down, we don't need so much foreign currencies. And so what we are seeing today, yes, the figures will look good. But even in theory, when you are operating this regime, that is floating managed exchange rate regime, if you operate it and your local currency is doing so well because of, intervention, it affects job creation. This is what the theory says. It makes things look good, but theoretically and practically, it cannot deliver the result that we need. Okay. But people will ask, then why is the government still pursuing it? Stability is very good for all economic players. And so that is a bit of reason why periodically Bank of Ghana is supposed to come and protect the city. But if it becomes the business of the Bank of Ghana that at all costs maintain CD far below the market value, yeah, they will do that. Because now gold is doing very well. The inflows, we have over 13 billion or so in our reserves. So now you have all the luxury to do that. I'm just looking forward to 2027 when we are going to pay so much on our external debt, and that is going to affect Bank of Ghana's ability to enter the market to pump 1.4 billion this month alone. Right. They're going to pump 1.4 billion. That is enough. If you do that, you are going to take away over 15 billion from the system, and that is going to affect aggregate demand, as I said. And so I think we love the figures better than the welfare of the people, and that's exactly what is happening. So what we are seeing it because please be wrapping up for me. Bank of Ghana is the reason for the CD's stability. Okay. Do I have time to comment on the debt? No, you don't. Let me just give each of you your departing words. So, Dr. Domfe, I'll begin with you. 30 seconds, please. Let's stick to the 30 seconds time. Your departing words. Okay, so my departing words is about the debt. The debt, we've not been doing well. We don't use nominal debt to assess trend of debt sustainability. But if I were to do that, you realize that President Akufo came to meet $7.1 billion US. And when he came, because of HIPIC, he moved it to 8 billion. And so that was very beautiful. But then after that, what did we see? A new government came, they moved the debt all the way to $29.2 billion US. And that was really hard. They added 21 billion to our debt. They accumulated 21 billion within 8 years. And after that, another government came, pushed it to 60 billion. By the end of 2021, our total debt stock was 60 billion. And debt to GDP ratio has become unsustainable. The more you move beyond 70% threshold, you have become unsustainable. Now, they left it at 49, which means that they also added 20 billion. And so, you see, we don't do well with revenue generation. For us to get to where we want to be, we should make sure we expand the broad base. Today, about 14 million Ghanaians are working. Only 2.3 pay income tax. So we are not doing well with the revenue numbers. And that is why we always rely so much on borrowing. And we haven't done so well over the past couple of years. Dr. George Domfe is a development economist there. Thank you very much. Kojo Opono Nkrumah is the ranking member on the Economy and Development Committee. Kojo, I want to give you 30 seconds as well. Your final words so that we wrap up this conversation.
The most important metric in economic policy management is the welfare and the lived experience of the people. Government should pay attention to that and less attention to the propaganda, the settings, and the PR. It will bode well for all of us.
Kojo Opono Nkrumah, thank you very much. As I mentioned earlier, he's the ranking member on the Economy and Development Committee of Parliament. The vice chairman of the same committee, Kofi Noko, is also on the line with us. Kofi, I want to give you 30 seconds as well. Your departing words.
So what I can say for now that the indices shows that we have achieved greater economic stability by virtue of the prudence measures being put in place by the Ministry of Finance and the Governor of Bank of Ghana. But truly, the next step shows that we need to convert this stability into job creation, which this government is determined to do that. Like I said, looking at how power can be available, logistics, cost of logistics can come down, how the young man in Axim and anywhere can have access to credit facility, credit availability. Agro-processing too, it's something this government is not backing down on. So basically, what we're trying to say is that we know it will reflect in job creation, but it takes time, it takes measures, and we, as a government, are committed to that.
Kofi Noko, thank you very much. He's the Vice Chairman of the Economy and Development Committee of Parliament. Williams Prepara is a Professor of Finance at Andrews University. Professor Prepara, I want to give you the final word.
Thank you very much. So what I would like to say is that it's good that unemployment situation has been picked up by the commission. I'm expecting that the government in power will have to work towards it, especially as I've mentioned, the underemployed people. They may have to take a look at it, and also whatever policy they are coming out with, they should measure it both in output and outcome, which is the quantitative numbers and also on the impact assessment. My last word is that if we don't take care, the unemployment situation is going to be a security threat to the nation.
Williams Prepara, grateful for your time this afternoon. He is a Professor of Finance at Andrews University in the United States. Let's now head to the courts because an Accra High Court has struck out an application filed by the Attorney General's Department seeking to revoke permission granted to the former Chief Executive Officer of the National Buffer Stock Company, Hanan Abdul Wahab, to travel to London for medical treatment. According to the court, the travel order expired on July 12, rendering the state's application moot and unnecessary for determination. Abdul Hanan was granted permission to travel on July 4th, but was subsequently arrested at the Accra International Airport after prosecutors alleged that he had breached aspects of his bail conditions. And my colleague Fatau Bayaga was in court for us today and is joining me in studio with more on this. Fatau, lead counsel for Abdul Hanan, the former Attorney General, Godfred Dame, was on his feet today. What were his arguments?
Very interesting legal battle in court today, Ken. And basically, the Attorney General filed this particular motion seeking to stop Hanan from traveling to the UK. And he was on his feet in Specialized Court 1 of the Accra High Court to move this particular motion when the, experienced Judge Francis Apanga Chibonga drew his attention to the fact that the order had expired because the court gave the order from the 4th to the 12th of July. And after this particular period, then it means that you cannot move such a motion at that particular point. So that was what the judge told Deputy Attorney General Justice Simsai. And based on that, Ken, he then sought leave of the court to withdraw that particular motion. So he told the judge that, okay, since you drew our attention to the fact that this particular motion had expired, or the time given had expired, we would like to withdraw this particular motion. So he did. When he did, then the judge struck out the application as withdrawn. Immediately after that, former Attorney General Godfred Dame stepped out of the courtroom and then he engaged the press. Basically, he said that he was very surprised that the Deputy Attorney General would even come to court seeking to move such a motion, knowing that this motion had expired, it has elapsed, it's moot, and all of that. In fact, he himself described it in his own words as incompetent. We can listen to him.
Well, I think first and foremost, the conduct of the state must really be emphasized by you guys. I'm quite surprised that the state will actually behave in this way, conduct itself in a way just to violate a citizen of Ghana in this manner. They, of course, prevented the court order from being obeyed by arresting him and detaining him for the period that you all know, 4 days and 4 nights and all. And then deliberately filed the motion and face it until after the lapse of the order. And I'm surprised that the Deputy Attorney General would come to court seeking to revoke an order which has lapsed. So clearly that application was incompetent, could not be granted because the order had lapsed. And they orchestrated the lapse of the order because they arrested him, put him in their cells, and they seized his passport for him, prevent him from traveling and all that.
Right, so that is the former Attorney General, who is now the lawyer for Abdul Wahab, Godfred Dame. And Dame appeared dissatisfied with the court's alleged refusal to compel the state to release his client's passport. And Fatal Bayaga is still with me in the studio. Did he give any reason why?
Absolutely, he did, Ken. He said that, in fact, the court order was that, okay, Hanan should return the passport to the registry of the court on the 14th of July. But as we speak, he said that when Hanan was arrested at the airport, his passport was taken away from him and is currently with the IOCO. And in fact, if the court want to get this particular passport, it should compel the state through IOCO to bring that passport to the registry of the court. So he said that he was baffled by the fact that the court hadn't taken such a decision at this point to ensure that the state produces the passport. You can listen to him.
The reason why I'm quite baffled by what the court did today is that, well, the order for the passport to return to registry was actually given by the court, was part of the court's orders, both at the time bill was granted to him and also at the time this order for him to travel was granted, that after traveling, he should return the passport by 14 July. And that has not been done because IOCO arrested him and is keeping the passport. So if the court is not interested in ensuring a compliance with this order for the passport to return to the court registry, I do not mind. We will not make any application at all to the court for any passport to release. It's up to the court. If the court doesn't want the passport to return again to the registry of the court, so be it. At the appropriate time, when there's a need for him to travel, we'll make an application to the court for him to travel. That is all.
But the judge said you know what to do in order to get this passport.
It's up to the court. The judge was concerned about the seizure of the passport by IOCO, and the judge failed to order IOCO to return the passport to the registry of the court in compliance with the court's own earlier orders. And if now the court is not concerned about the compliance of its own earlier orders, I don't have any problem. It's up to the court. I mean, they ought to know what to do and to do the right thing. The Republic must not be pleased all the time. It's about time the Republic be called to order.
That's Godfred Dame there. Fatal Bayaga is still with me in the studio. Abdul Hanan also alleged that his £7,000 and other valuables were illegally taken by IOCO officials. Was that addressed by his counsel?
Yes, Godfred Dame spoke about that vehemently, and as part of what he said, in fact, he claimed that he doesn't know whether this money has been spent by the IOCO officials because they've been trying, hard to get the money and other items, including 2 mobile phones, but they are unable to get these items from IOCO. And in fact, he said that this particular money wasn't withdrawn from the alleged frozen account that has been widely claimed by the AG. So basically, he wasn't happy about all of that. We can listen to him.
You cannot arrest a person and seize money which is on him. They've seized his money. I don't know whether they've spent the money, IOCO has spent the money or not. I mean, the money that was not taken out of the account that they claim was frozen. Clearly, the account that was frozen was not assessed because there was no check written by Hanan to withdraw any money. He borrowed money for his travel, about £7,000 and all, and they've seized it. They seized it with IOCO, the executive director. So these are the matters that are pertinent.
Counsel, you are close to your client. How does it feel about all of this situation at the moment?
Well, he's keeping it cool. I mean, definitely he knows that he's not guilty of any crime at all. And in the fullness of time, he'll be vindicated. And that's the most important thing.
And I mean, with regards to the arrest, you indicated that no charges have been pressed yet.
Yes.
Something that you're going to follow up.
Yes, so the law gives us a number of options. Enforcement of his fundamental human rights. We can institute an action for unlawful arrest and for damages for all the injury and the harm that has been occasioned him by the unlawful detention.
Away from the courts, President John Mahama says although the completion deadline for the Big Push road projects is December 2027, the current pace of work suggests that many of the roads could be completed well ahead of schedule. He says government is moving away from bitumen surfacing and adapting asphaltic concrete for major highways and trunk roads because it is more durable and will extend the lifespan of roads. Speaking after inspecting ongoing Big Push road projects in the Volta region as part of his tour of the region, President Mahama also said the projects have so far created more than 300,000 direct and indirect jobs.
All these major roads, especially the highways. Some of them were bituminous surfacing. We're changing them to asphaltic concrete so that they'll last longer than when we just put bitumen on them. So these would make those roads last longer. I'm happy to see the progress of this work. Like he said, all of them are ahead of schedule. We have up to December 2027 to finish these roads, but the rate at which they are going, it is likely that much earlier than the end of next year we'll take over these roads. It means you'll be able to ride very comfortably if you're coming to Ho, which is the capital of the Volta region, and you're coming from Accra, you'll be able to drive very comfortably to Ho. And it means that the capital of the Volta region will have a first-class linkage to other regions. Aside from that, we're also working on the Eastern Corridor stretch, a good percentage of which passes through the Volta region, all the way from Hohoi down to join Asikuma and continue down to Dwapong and to Atimpoku before you continue to Accra. And so once that is done too, it will link the Volta region through Oti to the northern part of this country. And that all spurs economic development. Aside from that, I'm happy to note, as I go around the country, I look at the sites of the contractors, and you see a lot of young people have gotten work during the construction phase. It is estimated that with the current projects that we're doing, at least 300,000 direct and indirect jobs have been created. Direct are those who are working directly on the projects. Indirect are the food sellers who are selling to them, the quarries that are producing the rock for them, the filling stations that are providing them with the fuel, the cement distributors that are selling cement, the iron rod distributors that are selling iron rods. If you take all that together, we estimate that about 300,000 jobs have been created just because of this big push. This is not the end of it. As I said, it's a 5-year program. And so next year, we're starting the identification of phase 2 of the big push. I noticed that when I go to some traditional areas, they say, oh, you've started this road, you haven't started mine. A lot of the chiefs are restless about the fact that their roads have not been tackled yet. You start from the major ones, the trunk roads, and then after that you move to the other secondary and primary roads. And so in the next phase, there are more of the secondary roads that link up to the major arteries that are included in the second phase. So if your road has not yet been captured, it doesn't mean that we're not going to do it. Like I said, this is a 5-year program. We're only in year 2 of the program. We still have year 3, year 4, and year 5. And every year we're going to allocate more money to the Big Push program. And a lot of the Big Push program is being used in the road sector because we found it as the most challenged and critical sector. And if you want your country to develop, you first make it easy for people.
Government has selected a strategic investor to partner in the revitalization of the Volta Star Textiles Limited, with work expected to begin soon to modernize the factory. Speaking during the Reset in Ghana tour of the Volta region, President Mahama disclosed that the selected investor will soon visit the factory with a transaction advisor to begin designing the modernization of the facility.
And international markets. No discussion about Dwapong can be complete without recognizing the historic contribution of the Volta Star Textile Limited. Which for many years symbolized hope, employment, and industrial progress while supporting thousands of families and shaping the community's economic identity. Government is determined to restore the legacy of the Volta Star Textiles Limited. We are going to do this through strategic partnerships, investment mobilization, and modernization of the factory's operations. And I'm pleased to inform you that this process has made very significant progress. We appointed a transactions advisor. We advertised for strategic investors to apply. They applied, they submitted bids, and we have selected one strategic investor to partner us to revitalize the factory. And I wish to inform Togbi Mamao and the workers of Volta Star Textiles Limited that very soon the transaction advisor is bringing the strategic investor to visit the factory and start the design for modernizing the factory. The revitalization of this factory will create sustainable jobs in the Dwapong area. It will strengthen Ghana's textile value chain, and it will reposition Dwapong as a vibrant industrial hub, complementing our broader investments in agriculture, commerce, and infrastructure. And one of the things somebody asked was where we're going to get the cotton to spin. Arrangements are being made to sign a memorandum of understanding with the government of Benin to supply us with cotton from Benin to feed the factory in Ghana.
Well, the president also says the necessary verification, assessment, and administrative processes relating to compensation for persons affected by the Akosombo Dam spillage are being concluded.
The resilience of the people of this region has been tested in recent years. The spillage of the Akosombo and Kpong dams caused significant hardship for many families, affecting homes, farms, businesses, and livelihoods across several communities. Government has remained fully engaged in addressing the aftermath of that unfortunate event. The necessary verification, assessment, and administrative processes relating to compensation are being concluded, and I wish to assure all affected people that government remains committed to ensuring that the process is finalized fairly, transparently, and responsibly. Once this process is finalized, the Minister of Finance made allocation in this year's budget to start the payment of compensation. If the money allocated is not enough, allocation will be made in next year's budget to continue the payments.
Residents of Alogushi are still reeling from the devastating June 29th floods after another body was recovered, pushing the death toll in just that community to 9. The assembly member says residents initially believed 16 people were missing, while 9 bodies have now been retrieved. Concerns remain that the remaining 7 may have been swept away by the flood waters. He's calling for intensified search efforts and urgent support for families affected by the disaster.
Discovered a dead body today, and it was very bad.
You mean it's so bad that you can't even tell if it's female or male?
Very well, you cannot tell.
What has since happened to the body?
The Meho of the Municipal Assembly and that of the police assisted, and we've taken it out to the morgue.
The flood, you were telling me how many deaths so far. If you add today's one that you have just discovered, it will be about 8 or 9?
Yeah, Alogushi community, 16 people recorded missing.
Missing?
Missing. And we found...
My wife the way is almost in ban pressure and
as an assemblyman, my people now call me Mochiriman. The reason being that I have to help the police carry all these people to the morgue, and after which some of the people come to say they want to identify their persons. An assemblyman, you have to lead to the morgue to be showing the people. In fact, I don't know.
Are you traumatized?
I am.
Away from that, at least 12 people have been confirmed dead and several others injured following a 3-vehicle collision at Konongo Dumasi near the Anglican Basic School At Konongo in the Ashanti region, the crash involved a tomato-laden cargo truck, a passenger bus, and an empty fuel tanker. Preliminary investigations indicate the accident may have been triggered by a wrongful overtaking attempt that led to a head-on collision. Fire service rescued trapped victims and transported the injured to nearby hospitals. My colleague Ohemi Ntewia was at the scene for us and has been engaging some eyewitnesses.
Eyewitness accounts say the accident occurred at 11:34 p.m. when the driver of the cargo truck attempted to overtake a tanker truck ahead of him and collided head-on with the oncoming bus, which was traveling from the Accra-Kumasi direction. Bishop Omani, who was taking fresh air at the premises of this church, says the cargo truck veered off into the lane of the oncoming bus and collided head-on, killing the driver and the mate and one other passenger on the spot.
I'm a Okada rider at Udumasi Konongo, Asante Achim Central, and we are at our station, and we heard explosion, heavy explosion. The car crashed here, and we just rushed here and just saw one bus, one tomato car, and highly flammable petrol tanker in the accident. Like, we rushed there and saw some passengers who are in very critical conditions, and we rushed them and take the responsibility to ourselves to rescue them. As for that, we know that human life is first important before you can take any action. So, as a civilian or as a good citizen, I rush here to come and take care of the victims, those who are part of the accident. And we rescue about so many people in the bus, but unfortunately 12 people died instantly, and we couldn't do anything about it.
I see. So let's talk about this scene. Is it the first time you are experiencing an accident on this stretch, or perhaps something that is common here?
For me, this is not the first time. You can just check on my hair, my forehead. You can see there is a mark here. Coming Saturday, it's been 1 month. I got accident from here. This the same place. You can see at your back the hole is there. The same hole can trick you. If you're a driver, you come in, then you don't know that there is a pothole there. You are coming with full speed. Here is accident prone. So many accidents have been.
Let's take you live to the Ashanti region and speak to Ohemi Ntewia for more on this. Ohemi, you reported earlier that 12 persons have sadly perished. Has the death toll increased as we speak?
Not at all. The death toll remains at 12. And the information I picked when I visited the Asante Achim Central Municipal Hospital is that all the 32 persons who were rushed there are in stable condition, and the medical officers are monitoring their improvement so they can make an informed decision on the victims. So out of the 32, 10 are males, 13 are females, and then 9 of them are children who are aged between 7 months and 2 years. Unfortunately, some of these children have lost their parents, either their mother or father. So hospital officials say they are waiting for the families of these children to come so they can sort of communicate the death of their parents to them. The information I picked from some of the victims is that this was a bus traveling from Avetime in the Volta region to Yeji, and majority of them are traders who were on their way to buy fish from the Yeji market, but unfortunately was involved in this dastard accident. One of the victims I spoke to, a 20-year-old woman, says she was traveling to Old Soldier near Yeji to buy the fish because around this time, fish is very, it's not expensive, I must say, in those areas. The reason she was traveling to Yeji. And according to her, the accident occurred at the time majority of the victims were asleep. Let's take a listen to this victim.
And I'm digging boom. And gas can also by the same. And the yenina yet got listening in a conyas into a coin home and dry union.
Yes, you no bus and overtaking and then I'm one over.
Then Ntos kana afaka afaye kwano. Enti onu obano we minu se we hu anase we hu. Enti tam na ye de na bed ra ni lemu no. Eno onu so abai no. Betam ye.
Enti uhuni wani se kan say accident na nkasa uhu amanfo na o maprepra ana sa wo de wani so antete ha na wani beso betete
ye prapra nkasa ye doso ebi mu wu ye dia nyame agi enkwan no impo yesu ye tiase
de no wo so ya uhu se bia wu na wo tiase se na wo kan kire nyankopon na se na wo ye wa nkasa
o meda nyame ase se de atu ye no yenina yeninda ho se ebesi enti de omuwo na ya yeti ase no de be kan se ebeda nyankopɔ ase yenina yefuka enti mimi nhede ni momo sa gise yakole bi pe na minim ni mami mpo ha na minim.
Ohime, has the area been cordoned off? What is the current situation at the site of the accident?
For now, the accident vehicles remains at the same place the accident occurred. I had a conversation with the Konongo Divisional MTTD Commander, ASP Frank Asari, who told me for some time now that particular spot has become accident-prone. And he says even yesterday, 2 accidents were recorded, including the one that took the lives of 12 passengers. And he thinks that drivers who ply that particular stretch, either they overspeed or they are involved in wrongful overtaking. Let me also say that this particular spot has gained notoriety over the years. I remember as a reporter since President Kufuor's era, I used to come to this place to report on accident cases. So this is not the first time I have been to this place to report on an accident. The place before then used to be very steepy until President Kufuor's era. They intervened and started the reconstruction of the Kumasi-Konongo-Accra stretch. And then to some extent, that particular steep was reduced to the barest minimum. But now, when you are traveling from Kumasi to Konongo, the moment you leave Obuam and you are getting closer to Konongo Township, you are confronted with this hill. So you have to climb and then descend. Immediately you descend, then you have another one to contend with to also climb. So when you are climbing, it comes with some sort of blockage. You are not likely to see what is ahead of you. But this is a particular stretch where drivers have mastered, and either they try to overtake each other or are involved in overspeeding. So it has become an accident-prone area, prompting NADMO officials to also erect signposts drawing the attention of motorists that this is an accident-prone area. So when you reach this particular stop, you need to apply caution and then also kill your speed before your speed kills you. But unfortunately, motorists heed no to this. They don't heed to this advice and then the caution from NADMO. And this is where we are, 12 people losing their lives just in a very uncomfortable manner.
Ohime Nteria, thank you very much for that in-depth reporting. Well, firefighters were first responders at the site, and AD01 Alex Kenate is with the Public Relations Unit of the National Fire Service. Is joining me on the line for more on this. Mr. Kenate, welcome to the program. Your men and women were the first persons to arrive at the scene. What did you witness when they got there?
So thank you very much. So when our officers arrived at the scene, it was quite a chaotic scene. We had a lot of civilians, bystanders, and pedestrians who were all trying to chip in to help. With the people that were there, we anticipate that the different people are different motives. Different people are different motives for being there. There were the people that were there genuinely to want to help, and there were the people that were there trying to steal or rob these affected people. And so our officers had to try and find a way to stop these people while we await the police, reinforcement to help us keep the people in check. Again, our officers could hear people cry, and there were cries for help. And so they had to now prioritize helping people who were injured. And then after that, make sure that the people who died or lost their lives, their bodies were retrieved. And so it took over 2 hours. But then, unfortunately, 12 of these people lost their lives. And transporting them again was even another challenge or another story on its own.
You said that there were a lot of people at the scene of the accident. Did they obstruct your work?
Yes, so you realize that when it comes to accidents, the first responders are always the Ghana National Fire Service. But here in Ghana, you'd find bystanders being the first responders because they would witness it and call on the Ghana National Fire Service. When they witness it, it's ideal that they wait on the Ghana National Fire Service to come and extricate these people. When I was listening to the gentleman, they were saying, no, they came to rescue. You realize that when they make efforts or attempts to rescue people, the way you even try and bring someone out might either further kill the person or cause major injuries to the people. When an accident happens like that, the way people are handled can either maim them or make them well. And so you might end up affecting their spinal cord instead of helping them. And so they thought they were trying to help. But ideally, when things happen like this, it's important that you try to engage the people so that you're able to keep their nervous system working while we are right there. There are some first big things people do not know. That when people are involved in an accident like this, it's never advisable to offer them water. People do not know that. And so when these first responders get there and someone in distress is asking for water, the good Samaritan spirit in a person would inadvertently offer the person water. That would do the person more harm than good. And so it was quite a challenge having all these people there. And it's always one of the things that we grapple with until the police come and help us restore calm.
Right. So in incidents like that, when somebody asks for water, do you refuse the person? Or what do you do? Is there any alternative?
You refuse the person because at that point, the person is in shock, and introducing water in the system could be deadly. And so these are things that people who happen to be first at incident scenes, who are not trained, might end up, causing more harm than good. Someone might probably be trapped, and when the person is trying to pull them out, instead of probably we come in with specialized tools like stretchers, like cutters, like spreaders. So with the spreader, for instance, when the metal or the frames are together, the spreader will now create room so we're able to bring the person out comfortably. The bystander who's trying to help will not know or have this expertise and will try dragging the person. The more this person has been in an accident, the more you drag the person, you might even end up crippling the person because you inadvertently do things that would affect his or his spine. And so it's important that they know some of these things, and when we get there, they should allow us to work. Because when we get there, we feel that they are showing us what to do. What they think is right might end up being the wrong thing.
We understand that the cars that were involved in the accident are still at the accident scene. Our reporter, Ohimi Teria, tells us. How dangerous and worrying is this?
Well, it's quite worrying. With us, as the Ghana National Fire Service, play our role and our responsibility. When we go and we effect these rescues or we retrieve these bodies, the next thing we do is that because we went to the fire tender, when the blood stains on the ground or the debris from the crash is still on the ground, when the debris is still on the ground, what we do is to make sure that we're able to clear these debris with our water. And so we, on our part, we've done our part, and we know that mobilizing resources during times like this sometimes become difficult. And so I'm hopeful, and I'm sure that maybe in the course of the day or before the end of the day, maybe that, even though it's a bit dangerous, I believe that road users, especially, fortunately, it's still the daytime, and so visibility will be better as compared to if it's in the night. And I'm hoping that the other came in. The fortunate, I'm trying to find the right word to use to describe the kind of situation we would have been speaking of now if that fuel tanker was full. And we have all these people going in, especially in a place or during a time where Ghanaians are so fixated on siphoning fuel when there's an accident. You can imagine. And when it happens like that and there are fuel spillage and people try to siphon this fuel, someone might go in with a metallic, utensil trying to siphon the fuel. And just by passing the utensil on the road or on the surface, trying to siphon the fuel, it can cause a spark. And this spark is, with the fuel there, is well enough to start a flame. And so we strongly advise people, because with all this, when these two cars collide, mind you, the fuel tankers will be ruptured, it will be punctured. That's why when we go there, we tend to wash with full concentrate and wash out this fuel spills so that it doesn't ignite a fire. And so we strongly advise people against rushing to accident scenes, because you might think you want to help, you might think you want to go and siphon, you might think you might want to go and take belongings. But in all these three instances, it is totally wrong.
Alex Kinate is an assistant divisional officer with the National Fire Service. Thank you very much, Alex. A video has been going viral this week with social media hailing a Toyota Vitz driver as a hero for sacrificing his car to stop a truck said to have lost its brakes on the Ofanko highway and prevented from crashing into other road users. But my colleague Emmanuel Jivenu went to the scene and to the police and found the real story to be different. Here's the report.
This is the Ofanko highway where on Monday this happened. By evening, social media was flooded with praise for this man, a Vitz driver hailed on social media as hero for steering his car into the path of a truck with field brakes from plowing into other road users. The story spread fast, but when we came down to Ofanko to find out more, the account on the grounds did not add up. According to the man who witnessed it all, this is no act of heroism.
And to a woman, one was a cast in a banner on the Moabrica, and to slow down. Now, written no press smart. Oh, into one to man, smart. And the yin breaking an wapana, or bunch, I feel no biamitia, or prayer breaking is serious until last winter could be a war. Maybe a South Tulan or a moon I could deny. And the one that sees our police for no buy a better man.
To get a full picture, we went to Achimota Mile 7 District Police MTTD station, where both vehicles have been impounded pending investigations.
It's not true. It's not true. It's just reckless driving. Preliminary investigation shows that the vehicle driver drove recklessly. Yeah, that's the actual thing. It's not that the truck driver feel the brake and the vehicle driver tried to. No. It's not that.
We spoke to the truck driver himself.
Now speed won't take 10 no. Yana say blink na ma feel. The crowd move na ma force at 300 bricks. Me type a pipe na mankum bia. Mankum as in bia city me 300 bricks ni sorry jina bricks na nyame boy nyina as in bia moja bia mpie.
The commander added that the vehicle driver was using a temporary license.
So I asked him, for how long have you been driving? He said about two months now. Clearly, his driving license, he's using a temporary driving license.
And there is a cost to the confusion. The truck driver says he's now facing demurrage charges for failing to return his container to the port on time.
Demurrage, because demurrage, there's 4 days in Iran. Not demurrage wonder that I know as some way so as I see my account.
As for the VITS driver being celebrated on social media, he declined to speak with us on camera, but admitted to wrongdoing. Police say dockets are being prepared and the VITS driver will be arraigned. For now, the man social media crowned a hero is the one police allege caused the accident. Emmanuel Jivanu, Joy News of Akko.
Fuel prices have increased from today, with petrol and diesel recording upward adjustments under the second pricing window for July. Checks at the Goyle filling station in Accra show petrol selling at 13.80 cedis per litre, while diesel is going for 16.3 cedis per litre. Commercial drivers say the increase is adding to the financial burden to them. For Alfred Arthur, who traveled from the Western region to Accra in search of better economic opportunities, the rising cost of fuel is making it increasingly difficult to care for himself and provide for his 4 children. David Asamoah Sante and Evelyn Amper have more in this report.
Alfred Arthur has been driving commercially in Accra to provide for his 4 children, his mother and other relatives back in the Western region. But he says as fuel prices continue to rise, a growing share of his daily earnings goes into keeping his vehicle on the road, leaving little for the people who rely on him.
They keep increasing the fuel prices, but the transport fares are the same. It makes everything difficult. You can't even buy spare parts, and the roads are also bad.
Alfred says he left the Western region for Accra because driving was his best opportunity to support his family. Now, he says the financial pressure has become so severe that even looking at himself has become a challenge.
I have 4 kids. I take care of my mother and my uncle. They all depend on me. I don't live here. I come from the Western region, so this is the only job I have to take care of them, and things are not going well because of fuel. My finances are down. Now I can wear a shirt for about 3 days because we don't get money. If there's anything the government can do to help, they should do it. It's either they reduce the fuel prices or increase the transport fares. The Bia won't over coffee and driver in the Yuri, and the girlfriend on in the con, the Yuri, and the boy, the back on in the con, school fees went to mean to ya. Now we now can be. In 10 years, sister.
The Chamber of Oil Marketing Companies attributes the latest fuel prices increase to rising global oil prices and depreciation of the cedi, both of which have pushed up the cost of imported petrol products.
We return from the break with more. Don't go anywhere. The Food and Drugs Authority, FDA, is raising concerns over the rising rate of obesity among women in Ghana, with prevalence increasing from 10% in 1993 to 43% in 2022. According to a World Health Organization report, the rise is being driven by the increase in consumption of processed foods and growing food poverty. Speaking at the launch of the double-duty nutrition profiling systems, which is expected to guide healthier food choices and support the implementation of key nutrition policies, Professor of Public Health Nutrition Amos Lahr said urgent attention must be paid to the trend, warning that obesity can lead to other non-communicable diseases.
1 in every 2 Ghanaian, women are either overweight or obese. But that also has implications on our health. Once you have obesity itself and a non-communicable disease, you are then predisposed to other non-communicable diseases, including hypertension, and heart diseases. So a country should then be interested in assuring and protecting the health of its citizens.
Still on health, the Ministry of Health is warning of strict compliance with admission guidelines issued to heads of health training institutions for this year's admission window. Director of Human Resources at the Ministry, Frederick Ansa Echampon, says adherence to established guidelines, particularly regarding admission quotas and timelines, is non-negotiable. He revealed the quota system was arrived at after taking into consideration infrastructure assessment, facility capacity, and National Health Task Force plans.
The Ministry of Health in March this year opened investigations into the operations of 2 principals of nursing training colleges. The duo have since been on suspension for alleged over-admission of students in the 2025-2026 academic year admissions, and in some cases, the introduction of unapproved programs of study. Addressing heads of health training institutions at the 2026 Annual Health Conference in the Juso, Director of Human Resources at the Ministry of Health, Frederick Mensah Echampon, warned the heads of consequences if they ignore admission quotas and timelines.
As we commence this year admission process, I wish to emphasize the importance of strict compliance with the admission guidelines issued by the Ministry of Health, especially the issue of quotas. Quotas are determined after careful workforce planning, infrastructure assessment, faculty capacity, national health workforce requirements, and I therefore urge all principals and directors to adhere strictly to their approved quotas. Equally important is adherence to the approved admission timelines to ensure uniformity, efficiency, and fairness across all higher training institutions. We must ensure that every admission decision reflects our shared vision of excellence, integrity, fairness, and accountability.
Mr. Mensah Echampon announced the commencement of new post-basic specialist nursing programs in some selected training institutions for the upcoming academic year. The introduction of the programs, he said, forms part of a broader government agenda to strengthen health service delivery, as at least 500 students, the first cohort of the program, are admitted to school. The training model is designed to shift medical training from complex theory to practically led clinical programs with the Nursing and Midwifery Training College in Kolebu, the Perioperative and Critical Care School in Kolebu, the NMTC in Kumasi, the ENT School in Kumasi, and the NMTC in Tamale as the initial centers.
One of the major policy directives which will continue in the coming academic year that we are looking forward for is the commencement of the new post-basic specialized nursing programs in selected training institutions. These programs are intended to augment the country's pool of specialist nurses and address the emerging healthcare needs while positioning Ghana as a competitive contributor to the global health workforce. The specialist programs roll out this year in 5 schools include critical care nursing, emergency nursing, cardiology nursing, endocrinology nursing, nephrology nursing, and oncology nursing. The premier institutions selected for the phase 1 of this program include the Nursing and Midwifery Training College, Kolebu, Perioperative and Critical Care School in Kolebu, Nursing and Midwifery Training College in Kumasi, ENT School in Kumasi, and Nursing and Midwifery Training College in Tamale. Quality health education can only be achieved when academic excellence is supported by strong regulatory oversight.
Meanwhile, Mr. Mensah Echampon announced promotion interviews will be held systematically twice every year, with 2026 promotion guidelines dispatched to all health training institutions. The new reforms, he noted, were to prevent staff from being disadvantaged. From Kumasi, for Joy News, Ohime Interior reporting.
Kane Member of Parliament Adama Sulemana has explained that the ongoing construction of the Debibi Senior High Technical School in that district will provide students with both secondary and technical education, equipping them with practical, employable skills upon completion. The project was highlighted during the Bono Regional Minister Joseph Ade Akwabua's 2-day tour of the district as part of the government's Accounting to the People series. Precious Semevo has more.
For 2 days, Bono Regional Minister Joseph Ade Akwabua toured the Tyne district to inspect ongoing development projects and commission completed ones under the district's Accounting to the People initiative. The minister inspected and handed over some projects at Drobobi Payase, Dagadu, Brody, Seikwa, and Soko, among others, and also inspected the ongoing construction of the landmark Debibi Senior High Technical School. The project, funded by the GET Fund, features a 2,500 capacity dining hall, bungalows, classroom blocks, and a technical workshop, among others. Tyne MP Adama Sulemana described it as the biggest educational investment in the Bono region.
They've asked for senior high for a very long time until President Mama came in 2025. It's a very significant project. I mean, when completed, it will be the biggest ever investment in education in the whole region. You can see administration block. It's a story building. You can see girls and boys dormitory. You can see teachers bungalow. You can see ICT lab. You can see all the infrastructure that you need. In view of the government's direction to improve on technical and vocational education, so this is a secondary technical.
He said the provision and installation of modern equipment and other facilities will equip students with practical, employable skills.
The school will be built and equipped to be able to deal with technical and vocational knowledge. And I believe that this will be the first technical vocational institution in the whole country and around this area. It's always liberal arts. So it will serve this part of the Bono region very well. The community is very enthusiastic. As you saw, the community is very happy with the project everywhere. You see the distance between town and here. They are always following. The chiefs are always there calling, finding out what is going on. And I believe that the enthusiasm will help us get the needed impetus to get this project going.
Bono Regional Minister Joseph Ade Akwabua called on residents to support the government's development agenda to accelerate progress across the country.
His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, everybody baby krona, I'm an baby school no. Ente momom paipa entai mampanyechi na nyuma pa oye no ye nyina ye ne tua nyuma pa oye no onkoso nye na nananom ye de ya mase ye bewia musika na se mobeka no kra abambia maya afe ne bosumi nsia watima ye bibi sei e wo Ghana ha.
Precious Semevo, Joy News in Soko.
Former Education Minister Yawose Aduchim has called on the government to prioritize investments in artificial intelligence, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, otherwise known as STEM, and robotics education, stressing that such interventions are crucial to Ghana's transformation agenda. According to him, the country's educational, research and economic competitiveness largely depends on sustained investment in technology-driven education and the provision of adequate infrastructure, particularly at the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology. The following report has more.
Dr. Edichum made a call at the Faculty of Educational Studies Students Association FESA Summit at KNUST, held under the theme The Future Ready Educator, AI Integration, Digital Pedagogy and Educational Excellence. He noted that KNUST's efforts in integrating AI into education, especially in biomedical sciences, have the potential to position Ghana among the most innovative countries on the African continent.
For the sake of the children, our future, to look at what Singapore did, what South Korea did. It's an opportunity for the government now to also continue the work and make sure that STEM education becomes a centerpiece of education transformation in Ghana. And it's not just STEM. We also introduce performing arts as a course in high school. So actually we're talking about STEM plus the arts. Bring it all together and something they call it STEAM. What we need to do to make sure that we focus on things that will help us change our nation through education.
Dr. Edichum further indicated that several reforms introduced during his tenure as Education Minister are beginning to yield results and should not be abandoned. Data from the Ministry of Education indicates that over 1.2 million learners have benefited from STEM-related interventions introduced in recent years, while thousands of teachers have undergone training in digital pedagogy and technology-based instruction. Meanwhile, Senior Lecturer and Postgraduate Coordinator at the Department of Teacher Education at KNUST, Dr. Patrick Swansea, also appealed to government to provide infrastructure to support AI integration within teacher education programs.
We need AI laboratories that we can use to train the teachers on digital pedagogy. We need AI laboratories that we can use to train the teachers on digital pedagogy. And also probably getting us facilities in the classroom that we use to train them, because these are teachers who are going to go to the field. But if you don't have the facilities that we are going to use to train them on the field, doing the teacher education program itself, then they are going to struggle. So we expect the government to turn an eye here.
The FESA Summit brought together academics, policymakers, student teachers, and education stakeholders to deliberate on strategies to prepare future educators for the rapidly evolving digital landscape. President of FESA, Prince Edu Amwateng, appealed for urgent support, noting that although students are enthusiastic about the programs, inadequate resources remain a major challenge.
We are calling to the government and to the various directors of education to come to our aid and come and help us. Bring us all the necessary equipment that we will need so that the program will be successful. With the help of College of Engineering and College of Science, the program is going well. Our students that are doing the program, and they are saying they are really enjoying the program. Just that the tools and the resources that they need so that they can do the program and do it well at the end of their 4 year within this university.
Reporting for Joy News, Josephine Sego, Kumasi.
Fresh calls for the resignation of MPP General Secretary Justin Korea Frimpong following the aftermath of the party's recently held constituency executive elections have been rejected by a new coalition of newly elected constituency executives in the Greater Accra region who say he should instead be retained for another term. Speaking on behalf of the group at a press conference here in Accra, constituency Secretary for Ablekuma Central, Emmanuel Opoku-Addo, argued that despite the party's financial constraints, the National Secretariat successfully organized the constituency executive elections by prioritizing security, logistics, and election administration over delegate allowances. He also maintains that the elections were largely successful, with 245 out of the 275 constituencies completing the process peacefully, while outstanding disputes are being resolved through the party's internal structures.
must prevail. The recently concluded constituency executive elections were among the most extensive internal electoral exercises ever undertaken by our party. These elections did not organize themselves. They required security deployment, electoral officials, election logistics, election materials, operational coordination, payment of allowances and stipends, national supervision. All these responsibilities were fully financed and coordinated by the National Secretariat under the leadership of lawyer Justin Kodiafrebo. That is leadership. That is administration. That is responsible stewardship. On the issue of transportation, food, and TNT, much has been said about transportation, food, and travel allowances. Let us place the facts on record. During the presidential primaries, polling station, and electoral area elections, delegates received no transportation, no food, and no travel allowances. The constituency elections followed exactly the same policy. This was therefore not a new directive, nor was it targeted at delegates for the constituency executive elections. It was a consistent administrative policy applied throughout the party's reorganization exercise because of the financial realities confronting the party in opposition. Yet, despite these financial constraints, the National Secretariat never compromised on the essentials.
Management of the International Maritime Hospital has raised concerns over the lack of replacement of old equipment at the facility. CEO of the facility, Dr. Vitus Victor Anab-Bisi, in an engagement with Parliament's Health Committee on day 2 of their monitoring visit, says currently most of the equipment installed since the operationalization of the hospital a decade ago have become obsolete, as the hospital also grapples with inadequate staff strength.
Then we have inadequate staff mix. Most critical equipment or capital intensive equipment, they have reached their end of life. 10 years is a long time in the life of a medical equipment. Look at our MRI is 40, ambulances are 10 years old, our IT servers they've come to end of life and we're not getting support. We're just managing until we buy a new IT server, bigger one, because we have expanded the models on our system, the hospital management information system. Our CSSD 2 sterilizer, 1 is down. Oxygen plant needs to be changed. Digital X-ray is also end of life, but we're still maintaining it's working for us. The gastroscope, we have to buy new ones. Patient monitors, we also buy new ones. Then high cost of infrastructure maintenance. Air conditioners you enjoy in this room, it has never been changed since the beginning of the hospital, but just because we have excellent engineers who keep the system going, we manage to keep the system going. But they need to all be changed. For 10 years, we're sitting next to the sea, and so you can imagine what happens to the equipment. Poor visibility, yes. I'm sure you saw only 1 or 2 billboards when you were approaching the hospital. You didn't see some from Sakumono, the beach road. We are working on that currently, but they're all expensive. So we are working on that. Then cardiac catheterization lab, which I showed you, the cath lab that was down there near the A&E, which you saw, is functional but not being used by ARIS. And that's a very, very big challenge. We need support from this committee. Either we get our own and operationalize it for ourselves, IMA, and that will bring us much more benefit, because that's one of the key areas, government priority areas to set up cath labs. I think so far you've set up 4 cath labs in some of the 4 teaching hospitals that I know of. I think IMA should also get one. And once we get one, then the private person can move it out and go and set it up somewhere.
Meanwhile, Chairman of the Health Committee, Dr. Makket Nawani, is also advocating for an upgrade of the hospital on the NHIS tariff system.
You have been accredited to join the Mahama Care. But there is some sort of contradiction, which I hope my members will help them. They are joining the Mahama Care to provide specialist care, and yet they are paid tariffs by the NHIA as a primary health care facility. And this, we came here to look at the facility ourselves, say that we can carry out the advocacy. And having visited the facility and seen what you can do, excuse me, my board chairman of Kulebu, they are not comparing themselves to you, but probably they have to thank you for assisting them to get to this stage with your staff, and especially. So they've been able to get to a stage where they can provide practically all the specialist care that is needed in the country. And so we should be able to advocate for them to be given that special tariffs to ensure that they earn more income.
Financial analyst Kwasi Jokoto is advocating the introduction of financial literacy into Ghana's basic school curriculum. He believes exposing children to financial education early will help them cultivate a culture of saving and preparing them to become prudent investors in the future.
Jokoto is a financial analyst. He says it is worth it returning back to one's humble beginnings. He attended KGB Roman Catholic primary and middle schools at the time. He came back with a mission to give back to society and help build financial literacy knowledge in the early grade learners so that they can become responsible financial literates when they grow up. According to him, most adults suffer today due to lack of the ability to manage and save money.
I'm also donating over 400 financial literacy books to support reading, learning, and practical knowledge among pupils and students. This part of the donation is very close to my heart. Education should not only prepare children to pass the exam, it should also prepare them to live wisely. Our children must learn early how to save, plan, and how to take good decisions when it comes to money. Understand money and avoid waste, and value work and build a better future. Many adults struggle today not because they are not intelligent, but because nobody taught them early how money works. If you want to change a society, we must begin with our children.
He has also urged the District Education Directorate to take interest in the content materials donated and also the financial literacy clubs to be formed in the basic schools across the district.
The purpose of the club is to help young people to understand money, savings, investment, and entrepreneurship, discipline, and responsible financial behavior from early age. We want our children to grow up not only with academic knowledge, but also with practical knowledge. I respectfully charge the District Director of Education to take this special interest in this financial literacy initiative. Director, this is an opportunity for KJB to lead. I ask that your office takes ownership of this program, guides its implementation, and coordinate the schools to support the head teachers and also help build into a model that can be beneficial to the whole district.
The donor also presented a set of brass band musical instruments to the school to instill discipline and musical talent acquisition. The PTA, apart from expressing their gratitude, assured of maintaining the instruments donated so that they serve the intended purpose.
The PTA pledges to work with management to ensure proper maintenance of these instruments so that they serve the school for many years.
Peter Sen for Joy News.
The Tano South Municipal Assembly in the Ahafo region has stepped in to address a long-standing furniture crisis that has forced some pupils to squeeze 3 to a desk designed for 1 or bring chairs from home just to attend lessons. Emmanuel Edujemfi has more in this report.
43 basic schools in the Tano South municipality have benefited from the arrival of dual desks for 858 pupils, 140 hexagonal tables with chairs, and 60 sets of teacher tables and chairs. Municipal Director of Education, Agnes Amihie, said because of the furniture deficit bedeviling the education sector in the area, 3 basic school pupils share a desk meant for 1, thereby compromising effective teaching and learning.
Because we have the insufficient furniture, they have to sit 2 or 3 on a chair, even during examinations, and it compromises the validity of the examination. Teaching and learning is very effective when pupils are able to sit comfortably in their classrooms to learn. This is going to go a very long way to alleviate our furniture situation in Tano South municipality.
Municipal Chief Executive Emmanuel Kwame Frimpong says the distribution fulfills a direct campaign promise to make quality learning materials accessible.
During the 2024 elections, the President made us aware that when voted into power, we make sure that our schools get the needed equipment to aid in teaching and learning. We are witnessing the 10% allocation for furniture for this municipality. We will plead with management of these various schools that they should take very good care of this equipment so that in the near future, we will not be going back to be buying another furniture for schools. What we see today is for 2025. We are about to do the 2026 procurement. This teacher-student table deficit will be a thing of the past.
The Paramount Chief of Bechim Traditional Council, Nana Eseubo Oseibonsu III, charges the school management committees, parent-teacher associations, and head teachers to take ownership of the furniture.
They go to our schools now. They bring their stools from the house and then they sit on it, and after they send it home. So by receiving these chairs, tables, it is going to help our municipality. Most of the times when you give such donations, people have a mindset that is coming from the government, so they don't take ownership of it. If any teacher sees any child misusing the chairs or the tables, he should try and then caution them, and they should maintain it so that it can keep long for us.
This intervention aligns directly with United Nations Sustainable Development Goals for quality education and health. According to think tank African Education Watch, over 2 million basic school pupils in Ghana still lack writing desks, highlighting the critical need for local assemblies to step up, just as Tano South has done. Emmanuel Edujemfi, Joy News, Bechim.
The Tachiman Traditional Council has officially allocated 310 acres of land to the Bono East Regional Coordinating Council for the construction of government offices and institutions, with chiefs warning against misuse and encroachment during a formal handover ceremony at the Manhenes Palace. Correspondent Anas Sabit has more.
The agreement was formalized today at the Techiman Manhenes Palace, with the documentation officially transmitted through the Regional Lands Commission Secretariat. The 310 acres of land is earmarked to host various government agencies consolidating administrative operations in the region. Speaking after the signing, Nana Osu Jari, the Akwamuhene, emphasized the council's trust in the government's use of the land. He issued a stern admonition to the RCC to utilize the property strictly for its intended public purpose, warning against any diversion for private gain.
We've seen it in Accra and elsewhere when chiefs give the land to the government to use it for the purpose of which they came for it. They diverted and did other things with the land. Sometimes you see some of them carving part of the land for their own personal use, or they can sell. We are saying that this is for the Regional Coordinating Council. We want them to build bungalows for government workers, offices, and other facilities that will enhance the development of the region.
In response, the Bonnet Regional Minister Francis Osu-Antwi expressed profound gratitude to the Nananom for their generous gesture. He reassured the traditional leaders that the land will be dedicated exclusively to the development projects for which it was allocated.
When we came, Nananom also cautioned that they have given the land free of charge to the president. As the representative, I also assured them that we are not going to allocate any portion of the land to anybody. We are not going to allocate any portion of the land for business transactions. It will not work. We are going to use the land for the intended purpose of which it was granted.
Meanwhile, lawyer John Osu-Ajman, board chairman of the Regional Lands Commission, fired a direct warning to potential encroachers. Citing the land laws, he cautioned that it is a criminal offense to encroach upon lands not rightly yours, urging the public to stay clear or face the full rigors of the law.
Our message to those who would want to encroach upon the land is that they must stay clear, and that the law, the land law of this country, 1036, section 277, subsection 2, says that if you appropriate a land or if you give land which is not yours, it is a criminal offense. So I'm alerting each and everyone that in their own best interest not to fall victims, to become, criminals, to be prosecuted in court, to go to jail. So everyone should stay clear, because it's an offense to encroach on government land.
This development signals a major step towards the region's infrastructural growth, with various construction works expected to commence soon. Anna Sabit, Joy News, Techiman.
That's it for the pulse of this evening. For more news, you can log on to myjoyonline.com. The news team returns at 7 p.m. with News Prime. My name is Kenneth. Jesse, have a good evening.